to the Season 3 finale of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League, presented by ChangeUp. I'm Owen Shadrick, and I'm joined, as always, by Johnny Maffey. We're calling this our championship special to celebrate the 2021 Futures League champion Vermont Lake Monsters. It was an incredible run for this team. Congratulations once again to the Lake Monsters on a title.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to owner Chris English, CJ Newts, and Dave Skirmerhorn, the whole front office, Paul Stanfeld up there giving us all the stats and info we needed on that 1,000 miles I put on the 2011 blue Subaru you guys saw pulling up to Wacona Park and Centennial all week. It was a great week. I said it on the postgame show. I'll say it again. Our 1 and 2 teams, they're supposed to go to game 3. That's what we saw. We saw the 2 aces going out there. It was 0-0 in the 5th, and then, Mestre gave up a couple unearned. It was an awesome week. It was crazy. The first 2 games were crazy with offense, and then the arms came out, and it was an awesome week, awesome season.
Yeah, it was a picture-perfect series with the offenses in games 1 and 2, and the pitching matchup, the incredible matchup between Mestre and Harrington in game 3. For this championship special, we have 3 guests from the Lake Monsters joining us, and we start with manager Pete Wilk.
Yeah, we go from Pete Wilk to, of course, we got the MVP on here, Jimmy Evans, and Billy Oldham, who came out of the pen. He was a Pitcher of the Year finalist, as we'll mention. We'll talk about him later. But Coach Wilk, first year, he was at Georgetown for 20 years, and this is his first year up here, and he's gonna give you everything. You got to listen to this one. I'm really not gonna say anything he said, because he really said it best. He chooses words carefully. He had a lot of fun, and it was so genuine and authentic, those answers he gave, because he was a kid too. Once the Chris Clark struck out the final batter, he was a kid too. And he was competing just as much with his roster turnover and everything. They did a great job up there, and that was the loudest game of the year. So that's just as fitting. Like, game 3 was the loudest game of the year. Well over 3,000 people there. Joe was loving it. Our boss, the commissioner of the league, everyone was loving it. It was electric.
It was electric, and we don't want to spoil any more about this interview, so we're going to get you to our interview. Here is Vermont Lake Monsters manager Pete Wilk. We are honored to be joined by our next guest here on our championship special. It is co-manager of the year and winning manager of the championship series, Pete Wilk. Coach, how are you today?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing well, and we'll get started with the most obvious question here. Chris Clark kicks, he throws and strikes out the last batter. What was going through your head?
If I can drop some expletives from my from the verbiage I used, I basically said we did it, and started looking for guys to hug.
So now it's Monday morning. You celebrated. You got the hugs in. Did it kick in yet? Did it sink in yet?
Yeah, you know what? I think it has. I got a ton of texts and emails and stuff, and I think that's helped it kick in, and just the memories that the whole summer, not just Friday, but the whole summer created. I think it has kicked in. But again, I'm back to reality here in Virginia, and it doesn't go very far at home. I still got to be the school bus for my kids and take them and take care of their lunches and, all that other Mr. Mom stuff that I'm wrapped up in down here. So championship was fantastic, but it's back to reality.
So one memory you might have, and we're going to edit this on the Zoom, but have you seen this picture yet?
No, I haven't seen that. That's awesome.
Pretty cool one.
That's an epic
Absolutely.
Photo. Yeah, I think I kind of stiffed Joe as well, the commissioner. I think he tried to shake my hand, and all I wanted to do was get these kids that trophy, because I really believe it was theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it to them. And so you gave some hugs after you gave the trophy out. How proud are you of these guys? You talked about adversity, you talked about a long summer, certainly a long summer. Like, what does that mean that, these kids won it and these kids did it for everyone?
Yeah, I'm so proud of this group of young men. And there were so many of them. We just kind of kept flipping that lineup over and over and over and over due to injuries and guys having to go to school. And it was next man up, and they just kept producing. It was just a phenomenal experience to watch the growth of some of these young men.
So back to the game a little bit in the 9th inning. You guys had a 3-run lead, and then all of a sudden the tying run was on second base. Of course, that's just how it had to draw up. I guess you just wanted the fans to get a little louder when you won, if that was planned out. But Will Hessling came in. Was that a plan to go from Hessling to Clark if things went wrong, or were you just going with what you had and what?
No, we got him. We had them both hot and both ready to go. Hess has been dominant against lefties. We had him earmarked for Thorbon, who's given us trouble all year. And unfortunately, he hit him. Hess has been phenomenal. But we had them both hot, and I knew I wasn't going to use Hess against any righties in that situation when I got Chris Clark hot and ready to go. And before we attacked that inning, Finch and I had a discussion about let's get them both going. We had to send another catcher down to the bullpen. Hey, let's get them both hot. There's no damage. There's no hurt in getting them both ready, even if Billy coasts. But we had them both ready to go, and especially Clarky stepped up big time.
Yeah, I was in that dugout, and the intensity in the 9th inning from you coming over to the mic and radioing to the bullpen it was a sight to see. I tried to get out of your way. I was like, huh?
You were in our dugout?
I was right behind you talking on that mic. I was like, I'm going to stay away from him.
I didn't know that. I would have thrown your butt out of there if I'd known that.
That's why I hid from you. Had to get the final video content. Come on now.
That part's not on video though, but it's good that you when you got Chris Clark throwing 95, you can't just throw a pitcher out there. It's good you threw the other catcher to the bullpen.
We had to have them both ready.
Yeah.
And it was somewhat fitting for Clarky to finish that thing. I mean, he was one of, I think we had 9 guys I started calling the long haulers, 9 guys who showed up on May 23rd and were with us the whole way. And Clarky was one of them. So I thought that was a pretty apt finish for him.
Yeah, and another couple of those guys, one of them, Patrick Harrington, who was the pitcher of the year, and Billy Oldham, who was a finalist for pitcher of the year. Those guys were the rock of your rotation. They were unbelievable all year, and obviously they pitched in Game 3 to help you secure the victory. What was it like having those two at the top of the rotation and to see them have the years they had and finish the way they did?
It's an incredible security blanket. Throughout the year, we had basically, we knew we had to win their starts because we weren't that deep otherwise. So we it's like having money in the bank with those guys going to the hill for you. But we knew we had to win those starts to do anything, and we did. And those guys they're legit, and they're even better human beings. Both of them, they're fantastic kids.
So, I talked to Coach Fincher after the game. He said the exact same thing. He said we need to win. We expect to win Pat Harrington starts, is what he said. What is it like to, this is the question asked after every championship in any sport. What's it like to see him not just do well, throughout the year, get the regular season pitcher of the year, but do well under the brightest lights?
Well, I'm so proud of the kid. He came to us, I don't know, the days run together, but he came to us after we got boat raced at our place in the first game of the championship. And he said, Coach, if it rains, I got you on Friday. And I'm like, it always rains in Vermont. All right, well, let's see what happens. We'll see, But we had just gotten our butts handed to us by a really good team. I mean, Getty's done a great job with that organization. And, I wasn't thinking Friday. I was thinking, how are we going to get past these guys down at Wacona? And he came up and said that to me. And, once we got past, once we built up a lead down in Pittsfield, I started hearing some rumbles about, bad weather. And I actually, in the 7th inning, I said, I told Patty, I said, get over here. I said, what would you do to start? What would you do prep-wise to start on Friday? He goes, I'd probably throw a short bullpen right now. And this was literally like in the 7th or 8th inning. We're up by like 7 or 8 runs. The game's pretty much, barring a collapse, the game's over. So he had to run out to the bus and get his stuff, get his spikes and glove and all that, because obviously he wasn't pitching down at Wacona on Wednesday. and we hustled him in and got his work in with the possibility / probability that now we are playing on Friday. Boy, am I glad we did that, because he was lights out on Friday. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was indeed phenomenal. And it's no shock that the summer of rain that we had ended with game 3 of the championship being moved because of rain.
Well, without that, man, we were in trouble.
Yeah, without that, of course, the one time we want it to rain, the one time we want the tarp, you guys want the tarp on the field. Before we return to our championship special, we want to share a message from our friends at 78 Sports. Do you have kids playing baseball or softball? We all know practice time is limited, especially here in New England. Not to mention the cost of lessons and cage time can add up quickly. Save yourself time and money by giving your kids what they need to work on their game at home. Our friends at 78 Sports can help you put together the perfect at-home training setup. Whether you want to start small with just a tee and hitting net, or looking to set up a full cage with turf and a pitching machine, they have you covered. The team at 78 Sports has designed and installed hundreds of home and commercial sports training facilities, so let them help you plan the perfect setup for your space. Visit the 78 Sports website at 78sports.com. That's SEVENTY8sports.com. For a limited time, just by mentioning Back to the Futures, you'll receive a 10% discount off your order. That's SEVENTY8sports.com. Now, back to the season 3 finale of Back to the Futures. So back to the beginning when it was still raining, when it was also raining, the start of the rainy summer. You guys started off 12-17. Not bad, not ideal. When June ended, what was that message to the team before that turnaround?
Well, most of our issues were we were just giving up too many free base runners. We were walking 8-10 guys a night. And, I can remember talking to them in Norwich as a pitching staff. And I said, guys, you don't realize how hard it is to hit with a wooden bat. And we're giving these guys too much credit. And I think that was it. In looking back, I think that was an important conversation. And obviously we picked up, different players that boosted our talent level. But I think the pitchers started challenging guys in the zone rather than giving them too much credit and putting them on base. And I think that was the basis of the turnaround, that and the addition of several new players in late June, mid-June. But we were beating ourselves. We were putting a loaded gun to our head every night and walking too many guys, and we were beating ourselves. And boy, it was maddening.
And out of curiosity, was that like an extra meeting? Was that like a longer meeting, like a sit down planned meeting, or was that just something that you do and talk to?
You know what? We were actually in a rain delay at Norwich. We didn't know whether we were going to play or not. Finch and I we've had ongoing discussions throughout the season, and both of us had basically reached our boiling point, and he had a number of things that he wanted to say to that staff, and we were undercover, behind the dugout, but undercover in the concourse in Norwich, and we met with him for 10 or 15 minutes, and he said his piece and I said mine. We're basically saying the same thing with different tones and different words. But I remember finally saying, guys, you have no idea how hard it is to hit with wood, and you're not challenging these guys enough in the zone. And I really do think that meeting with what Finch said and with what we said kind of hit home.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly did. Look at the July you guys had. You had 2 separate win streaks, won 14 in a row to set a Futures League record, won 7 in a row right after that. You went 23-2 in July. It was an unbelievable run. It vaulted you to first place in the league. How did you guys stay locked in during those streaks, especially after the message that you just told us you sent? And when did you know that the 14-game win streak was as high as it was?
How did we stay locked in? We kept coming to the yard, win or lose, and try to create a light atmosphere. I mean, it's a long summer, and if kids aren't enjoying themselves, they're going to tune you out. So we certainly tried to be the same people, win or lose, the night before, and still tried to make it a game and not a job. So that's kind of how we stayed level-headed. How did we know it was a streak? I spoke to Paul Stanfield, basically our stats and media guy, because he would deliver stuff to me before every game. And I was just curious. I think once we got to 8 or 9, I said, because he's a walking encyclopedia of Vermont lake monsters. He's been there forever. I was curious, and he threw some, hey, this is the VLM streak, this is the future streak, and once it got to me, I shared it with the kids. I thought it was going to be, a pretty interesting chance at history, and we were within reach. I think we were at 9 at that point, and yeah, what a magical run. And then, it ended, and we kept back, we came to the yard the next day and started it all over again. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, you guys really didn't step off the gas there in July, and you didn't in August either, because you were the last team standing at the end. So the results you produced in that regular season, you earned yourself a nice little plaque that says co-manager of the year on it. What does that mean to you being your first summer here in Burlington? Or up there in Burlington?
I mean, we set the damn bar too high. Where do we go from here? I don't know. It was that town, those people, just a super special experience, and I can't wait to get back up there again, hopefully.
Where are you going to keep that trophy all winter?
Well, the trophy went to the owner.
No, the plaque, sorry, your manager of the year plaque.
I've got a little man cave that it'll take a central part in my man cave.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a perfect spot for it. And we talked about the pitching earlier. Let's go to the offensive side for a minute. And one specific player that we want to talk about is Ethan Anderson. And we talked about the July that you guys had. He had an unbelievable July himself, won player of the month. He had a 17-game hit streak and reached base in all but 2 games all summer. What was it like having him on your team and you coming in the middle of the season, like you said, and firing on all cylinders?
He's a phenomenal player and person. That was a nice little shot in the arm getting that one in mid-June. That kid shows up, and man, from the first batting practice, we knew he was pretty special. You could literally hear the difference in the ball coming off the bat with that kid. It was funny. I mean, the kids in the dugout, it was like they were can't miss at bats. Whoever was doing whatever, Ethan came up. It was like, we got to watch this because this is going to be pretty cool. And he just kept getting barrel after barrel after barrel after barrel, and big hits too. Timing of it, nothing fazed that kid, and he clearly had a terrific time up there this summer.
Yeah, he also earned himself his top prospect. So congrats to Ethan on a great summer. And you touched on it earlier, and you just touched on it there. We discussed a lot on this podcast with teams, especially down the stretch, about the amount of roster turnover. And it seems like you guys have had it more than anybody else, whether it was guys like Metz and Anderson leaving or guys like Brulette and Pettit showing up to the team late in the season. With that amount of turnover, how do you approach it as a manager? And how do you balance the chemistry in the locker room with the amount of playing time for the guys on the field?
I don't think there's a super formula for that. I mean, we were in scramble mode. Hell, for me, it felt like for weeks, I spent more time on my phone than I think I literally have ever spent trying to find replacements and the right kids. And we're fortunate in that over the years, I've built up a network of buddies that I can go to. I know what I'm going to get out of their players because I know who they are as people and coaches. Tyler Pettit coming out of Trinity, just like Metzi and Shabby and Sammy Conti. I knew it was going to be a dedicated kid, a good teammate, and he certainly was. And we don't win that thing without him, even though he was there for like 8 days. We had a huge hole behind the plate, and I put out, I don't know, probably well over 100 texts and emails. And my buddy down at Trinity answered and said, I got a guy for you. And we couldn't get him on a plane fast enough. It was a ton of work knowing that we were going to lose, especially those 3 UVA kids were a tremendous loss for us in terms of talent and people and teammates. And we just felt we owed it to the organization in the town and to do everything we possibly could to, I won't say replace them because I'm not sure that they were replaced, but we got guys in there that helped us win a championship. It was just a phenomenal experience going with different guys. I mean, if you think about, like, we started our season with a couple of middle infielders that played very well for us. Patty DeSalvo from Georgetown and Noah Granite from Princeton. phenomenal seasons out of both of them. They both kind of ran out of gas, got hurt, had some family stuff, had to go home. And then Ruben steps in from UVA, takes that nightly shortstop job for the most part, does a tremendous job there. And then, we end the season with a kid from Worcester State who did a phenomenal job, Zach Landry, for us. He was, so we go from this Princeton, Georgetown, UVA thing to a local kid from Worcester State who played for one of my first players ever in my coaching career way back in 1990 at Boston University. Just, unreal. And Zach did a great job, without that bunt against their ace. That's not an easy bunt to get down. And he made two really high quality pressure defensive plays in the championship game. I mean, it was actually, I think you can tell the story of our team by the transitions of our shortstops. I think it's a pretty interesting story.
I mean, throughout the cycle of the summer, like you just put it perfectly there, from the UVA and Princeton situation to Worcester, and Landry laid down that bunt against Mestre, who had a bunch of great off speed. His fastball was up. It was one of the hardest. The Pittsfield kid said that he was throwing all year. When you look at, the course of your summer career, you've coached in the Cape before, you've dealt with roster turnover before, but you said this was like the most you've ever spent on your phone. Is that because you're the coach, you're the guy in charge, or is that just because this was a crazy summer?
Well, I was on the phone a lot up in Alaska too, but that was different. You're trying to, those kids, you kind of had more control over them because the club had the plane tickets and everybody flew to Alaska. So it was like, you want to go home, really? Well, then you're paying for it.
You didn't drive from Virginia to Alaska?
No, I didn't do that. No, but we kind of had more control over those kids being up in Alaska with the plane tickets. Plus the season was, it's 40. I think it was 44 games instead of 70. The length of the season is the thing that creates the turnover for a variety of reasons, but that's the basis. And when I was on the Cape, I was an assistant, so I was just swinging a fungo and throwing BP. That wasn't my job to fill the roster there, but I felt it was here for a number of reasons. And thank God we got it done. Barely, man. I had the shallowest bench I think I've ever coached a baseball game with on Friday night after Shabby gets hurt down at Wacona on Wednesday and he went home. I mean, I think I had two moves I could possibly make with that club, and it made it fairly easy game to manage because I didn't have much to do other than manage that bullpen. And with a guy like Finch, he makes that job pretty easy.
Yeah, definitely. You had the guys hot. You had the guys on the mound, like you said. So back to before the season, I know that was a while ago at this point. We've dug in a lot, but you're the head coach at Georgetown for quite a while, and you had a few Georgetown kids on these roster that, Andrew Bergeron was telling us, he didn't get to play for you. He talked to you a lot, and then he never got to play for you. So when you're filling up the roster, were you like, oh, I better not have too many of these Georgetown kids? Did you take what you could? How did it work with them specifically?
Well, there's an NCAA rule. You can only have 4 guys per team.
Oh, okay. And you filled that.
So you can't stock a lineup of UVA kids. I mean, we couldn't have 8 UVA guys. There's an NCAA rule. You have 4 and that's it. And, there's a comfort level for me with those Georgetown kids because I knew them. I recruited them. It's ironic. The first call I made once I was hired was to Pat DeSalvo because I knew who he was as a person, who he was as a player, and how he would help me kind of drive the message to a team-based clubhouse instead of me. And Patty did. He was phenomenal. He was just himself, but he's just a dynamic kid that draws others to him, and he's a selfless kid. And once everybody kind of saw, it wasn't just him, but we had some really high quality human beings all summer long that put the team ahead of their individual interests. And that's always a tight line to walk in the summer because, you got guys that are trying to get better. Obviously, we're trying to make them all better, but we're all trying to win and teach them a team game and how to win as a team. And those early guys, the Pat, the DeSalvos, the Granites, when Metzi came up, that was a huge addition all these guys pulling in the same direction. I don't think we had one guy who was happy, if he went 3 for 4, but we lost. I think that's a tribute to those kids in that clubhouse.
And that's super important in summer ball. We talk about
Incredible.
there's a team. You could be a team of players, or you can be a team. And it felt like you guys and Pittsfield on the other side too were definitely had that mentality.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you recruited DeSalvo first because he's also a veteran of the Futures League, so that had to help.
Again, that was a big reason behind it. I mean, he, like you said, a veteran of the league, but I knew him as a human being too, and I thought that was a critical piece of the puzzle. It's a bummer he couldn't finish the season on the bottom of that dog pile.
Yeah, certainly an important part of your team this season to start it. And, we talked about how you recruited all these kids to Vermont, but how were you recruited to Vermont? How did you get the job with the Lake Monsters?
I'm not sure. I still don't know that I know the answer behind that. Chris English, the owner, called me. Tom Tracy, apparently. We've had a number of guys go through Brockton. And when I say we, I mean Georgetown. And they came back, saying what a great experience they had. And I was always grateful to Tom and to Chris for taking care of my guys. I made sure they realized that we were grateful for that. It was last September or last August after I had left Georgetown. Tom called first to kind of sniff around. And then Chris called to see if I was interested in the Brockton job. And just with so much unknown up in the air, COVID, family, everything way up in the air for me, I just didn't think it was the right time to commit to something like that. And so I guess I turned it down in a way that didn't tick him off. And then he called me in early mid-February, out of the blue. Like I'm like, why is Chris English calling me on whatever it was, February 10th or whatever? He tells me he bought Burlington. Well, he's in the process of buying Burlington, et cetera, et cetera. And things in my world had changed a little bit. It seemed like things were settling down. Burlington to me, I had been there. I recognized it as a special place, and it is. And, an opportunity to provide a family experience on Lake Champlain in a college town with the foundation that the A's had set up there. I had 2 kids play with the A's affiliate up there and just rave about it. 2 guys that played for me at Georgetown and were drafted by the A's and went through there. And they raved about their experience. So all these things are running through my mind in our conversations with Chris about, okay, this could be a really special place. And I went up in April just to kind of see, okay, what do we need? What do we need? What do we have? What do we need to do what we need to do up there? And I just fell in love with it. I was up there for 3 days. And, this place, as I think you guys have seen, especially when you were there on Friday, I think it's going to be a top 5 summer baseball destination for college baseball players. Very, very, very few places have what we can offer in terms of facilities, town, location, league, talent. Go up and down the boxes that need to be checked off. But, if you can't go to Chatham or Orleans or Newport, Burlington is I think it's a top 5 college baseball summer destination for players. And we're very fortunate to have an ownership and management team that give us what we need as coaches and as players to have success there. And then the fan base is a whole nother spectacular category. I mean, those guys, they were the same faces in the stands, sitting in the same seats. It was wild. It was just a tremendous experience, not only for me, but for these kids to come out. And most of these kids are playing in front of mom, dad, and girlfriends at their college. These kids are not rolling out of these Power 5 programs for the most part, playing in front of thousands. So that was a tremendous experience for these kids, and you could feel it. Like I remember I made it a point to look at those 2 Worcester State kids we had. We had Ben Smith and Zach Landry on game 1 of their indoctrination game at Centennial, and they were like, you could see in their face, like they were like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And to have, especially Zach, man, I'm so proud of that kid, to have him step up and play in that atmosphere. There's no way that kid has played in front of the type of crowd that we get nightly on a nightly basis at Centennial. And he stepped up, and that's a phenomenal story in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially, you know, a lot of these like MassCAC and the new Max schools, like nobody allowed fans really this year,
Right?
especially in Massachusetts and up here. So going from that, and then, you know, they were playing some other sort of summer ball, I assume, you know, on a local level, and then get injected into that. So it's even more like, it's crazy. So did your family get to spend the summer with you up there?
You know, that's thanks for asking. They came up after school, so they came up for the month of July. We had that run in July, and of course, I'm hearing from all three. So I have a wife and 2 daughters, and I'm hearing from all 3 that, you know, we won because of them, and they were there, and you know, blah blah blah, which was great. You know, and then they left. Our housing was just for the month of July, and they went down to my brother's. My brother has a house on Cape Cod, and they went down to spend you know, the rest of their summer there, in theory. And we kept winning, and they surprised me in Worcester, which was unreal. Didn't expect to see them. I'm writing some notes up in the dugout about 40 minutes before the game, and I hear my girls giggling, and in the dugout running towards me, which was phenomenal. And they surprised me there. And then we got into the finals, and there was no way they were going to miss that. So they came back up, and the team was nice enough to get us a hotel, and for them to share in it, and in the victory on Friday was tremendously gratifying for me. I think if we had won it without my girls there, I mean, obviously it still would have been a big thrill, but to have my girls see that and experience that, you know, that'll be a lifetime memory for all of us, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great. You know, when you said before the year you envisioned them being up there, you executed that. Did they get to hold the trophy yet?
No, I think Chris English has a monopoly on that trophy, man. You know what? I don't know if they held it or not. We sure have a nice family picture that'll be the Christmas card for probably the next decade or so with that trophy. But I honestly don't know if they held it, but we definitely have a great family picture with that thing.
Yeah, there's no doubt that that's the Christmas card. That's a given.
Yeah, right? How can you not?
Of course.
Seriously.
Yeah. And last question here. We'll take you back to the beginning one more time. We were there for opening day at Centennial Field. And when we asked you about opening day, you said it was outstanding to be there and you were ready for baseball. Now that it's all over and you've reflected, what are your final thoughts on the summer and your first year as manager in Vermont?
I couldn't have drawn this thing up I mean, this is like a Hollywood story for me. And nobody would believe it. Just an incredible experience, and mostly made incredible by the people that were involved. I mean, the ownership and the management team are first class up there, and the people in that ballpark on a nightly basis, the players that came in and out of that locker room, coaching staff. I was extremely fortunate to have 3 men that gave up their summers and just did a phenomenal job coaching these kids. Matt Fincher, Joe Gamache, and Chris Richard. I couldn't have been more lucky to spend my summer with those guys. Boy, they made it fun. We worked our cans off, and you know, it was very, very special. I couldn't have drawn it up any better than it occurred. You really, I mean, if you look at it, it still at times doesn't feel real because of how special it was. And at times I still got to pinch myself. I mean, yesterday around 2:00 or something, I sent a text to my buddy. I'm like, I feel like this is weird. I'm not going to the yard right now. And it is, it's strange after 3 straight months of, you eat lunch and go to the yard. And that was just a phenomenal experience to be in that atmosphere we just can't wait to do it again next year. Can't wait to get back up there, but it's going to be a long winter. But I'll be looking at some pictures in the cold nights, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. It was an unbelievable summer, and you guys did an awesome job up there. Congratulations again on winning the 2021 Futures League Championship. And Coach, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, guys. I appreciate your support and your interest over the year, and I look forward to seeing you guys next year, I hope.
Hey, congrats, Pete.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks again so much to Coach Pete Wilk for joining us. He had a lot of great things to say about his roster, the championship, and you, like you said before we even got into the interview, he felt like a kid out there. It was awesome to see him celebrating with the team. Next up is the MVP of the championship series, Jimmy Evans, who was incredible down the stretch for the Lake Monsters, and he talks about winning the award and what it meant to win it as a team.
Yeah, it was so cool when Jimmy got there. Obviously, the Lake Monsters are a huge deal. Every Futures team's a huge deal in their areas, but the Lake Monsters up there, the news was there, the cameras were bright, the lights were bright, and he showed up. And when he won that award, he had the trophy. There were like 5 mics up on him. There was a huge light in his face, which would have annoyed me, but it was awesome. And he got his interview, he got his TV time. We obviously are giving him as much time as he wants and he needs, and he showed up. He had a great playoffs, let alone championship. This whole week, every team talked about it's whoever gets hot. Lake Monsters got hot, and that was a huge thanks to Jimmy Evans.
Yeah, big thanks to Jimmy Evans, who signed on July 10th. He was another one of those late signings that produced for the Lake Monsters. We're going to get you to that interview, so without further ado, here's our interview with Jimmy Evans. We are honored to be joined by our next guest on our championship special. It's the Championship Series MVP, Jimmy Evans. Jimmy, how are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course. And real quick, right off the bat, are you living on or off campus at Tufts?
I'm living off campus, but I'm currently home in Connecticut.
All right. So crucial follow-up. Where is that MVP trophy going in your dorm or apartment?
Definitely in my bedroom. Gonna have a nice stand for it, I guess.
Yeah, front and center. All right, now we'll ask about it. What were your thoughts going through your head as Chris Clark delivered that final pitch and you guys won the title?
I don't really know. It was just a lot of joy and excitement. I had a feeling he was going to strike the last guy out. Chris is a big-time strikeout pitcher, obviously, with a lot of velo. We always have a lot of confidence in him. And when he struck that last kid out, we just went crazy and the celebration began.
All right, so back to how you got to that Game 3. You had to win an elimination game in Game 2. You lost Game 1 at home. What was that message going into the game at Wacona Park?
Yeah, so obviously losing the first game at home wasn't the best way to start, but we knew we were going to bounce back. Coach Wilk talked to us after that game and said, guys, listen, we're fine. We've been great all year. We went on that huge winning streak. This team can do anything. We're a special group of guys. There's nothing to worry about. We just got to play our game and go into Pittsfield with a positive attitude and just ready to win.
And that clearly paid off as, Tyler Pettit was the one that hit the go-ahead bomb and you guys never looked back, and a couple RBIs by yourself helped with that. What was the mentality heading into Game 3?
Game 3 was just similar to Game 2, and honestly, the rest of the games we played the rest of the year, we just got to stay nice and loose, relaxed, and just go out there and have fun and just play the game we love, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, the rest took care of itself. Again, you had a few more RBIs Game 3. 2 aces took them out, and Pat and Isaiah Mestre. And hits were hard to come by those first few innings, let alone the runs. You came in with a clutch single and drove a couple guys in, and then Colby drove someone in right after that. How did that feel, to come through when your team needed you in such a big spot?
Yeah, I mean, it felt awesome, obviously, to put us up in that big game. But a lot of credit goes to actually how that started. Francis Ferguson got on with an error, and then Tyler Favretta walked, and then Zach Landry bunted them over. So if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have second and third to begin with. And like you said, there were 2 aces on the mound. So sometimes small ball and little things like that is the way to do it. And then fortunately, I got the 2-run single there to put us up 2-0.
We just talked about the aces that dueled to start it, but in terms of your guys' pitching, Pat Harrington went 5 scoreless. Billy Oldham kept it 3-0 until the 9th. And then all of a sudden, Pittsfield comes back and Mike Gervasi drove a line drive into field for the second out. It was stressful. Walk us through that inning and what you were going through standing in the field, just again, waiting to be in that dog pile.
Yeah, well, we all knew it was not going to be easy. I don't think any championship comes that easy. I think a 3-0 win with them scoring or not getting anyone on the last inning would have been way too easy for it to happen. So we figured something was going to happen, but we were ready for the adversity, and we have confidence in all our pitchers, all our arms, and it was well managed by Coach Wilk and the rest of the staff. And just a fun way to end things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that line drive from Gervasi went right out to you. And like Coach Fincher was telling me after the game, like, hey, that falls sometimes, but you were there, you made the catch. I got to go back to this bunt because Coach Wilk talked about it. And when you were on deck, did you see the sign at third base?
Are you talking about Zach Landry bunting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. So I knew it was coming.
So you knew you were coming up. You knew at least one guy was going to be in scoring position, at least because there already was a guy. But what did that? The bench was rightfully, pumped up after that bunt, and then you came in. What was that inning like? Did you deal with that emotionally?
Yeah, well, I was locked in the entire game. Mestre actually, my first 2 at bats, he threw me I think 9 or 10 pitches and only 1 fastball. So that entire inning before I even got up, I was just thinking in the dugout, like I might as well sit ChangeUp. I mean, he's been dealing all game, and he threw me I think 9 or 10 changeups out of 11 pitches. And I normally sit fastball and just react to off speed, but in that special case, I played the chances there and was like, I think he's going to throw me a changeup. So that first pitch that I hit and that at bat was in fact a changeup. It was honestly a pretty good pitch. It was low and away, but I just told myself I got to stay up the middle here and just drive it back right through him, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was funny because I was standing in the third base dugout and Bill Lee was sitting right next to me outside the dugout. I don't know if you saw him there before the game, but oh yeah, he threw out the first pitch. But he was like announcing the game, and he's obviously hilarious, but he kept going, throw another off speed because it was working for Mestre and until it wasn't, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, Mestre kept us all balanced the entire game, and he honestly probably threw more off speed than fastballs. So I was watching Tyler Favretto's at bats and Colby Broulette's as well, like us lefties. And he started all of us out with changeup. So I was basically sitting changeup in that first pitch, and I got exactly what I wanted.
Absolutely. So where were you in that dog pile after the 9th?
Well, running in from the outfield, I wanted to say hi to my outfielders first because we always do like a little celebration after each game. But then I was right on top.
So the dog pile happens, dust settles a little bit, and then Joe Palucci all of a sudden is announcing your name. Were you surprised by that? And when he handed you the trophy, or did you know going in?
No, I didn't really know. But after my second hit that game, the crowd was chanting MVP, so that was pretty cool. But I didn't actually know that I was going to fully get it or not. But when he announced my name, that was a pretty cool moment for me and my family. It's pretty surreal.
Yeah, who reached out to you first, or who surprising reached out to you that night or this weekend? Anyone special or any old friends or anything?
I got a lot of text messages. My high school coaches, my AU coaches, and my parents couldn't make it to the game because they were actually on vacation in the Dominican Republic, but they were watching live and they called me a bunch. My grandparents, all my friends from back home. I got a lot of love and support, and it was awesome to go back to my phone after that and see like 80 text messages or whatever I got. So that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, give them a memorable vacation, I'm sure. So obviously, everyone on your team was bought in. They cared about the team all year, whether it was the guys from the start or the guys that showed up late, like Tyler Pettit. But on a personal level, this MVP trophy, where does that rank in your personal career?
Definitely pretty high up there. I think anytime you win an MVP award, it's got to be at least top 3. So I would say it's definitely up there in my achievements, if not the top one.
Yeah, and you've talked about him a bunch so far during this interview. What did you learn from Pete Wilk and the rest of the coaching staff all throughout the summer?
Yeah, I thought the coaching staff of the Lake Monsters were unbelievable. We worked so much on hitting, defense, pitching, whatever it may be. But number one with Coach Wilk was just from the hitting side of things, just situational hitting. You got to do the little things right in baseball. I mean, baseball is a hard enough game as it is. And the game, you can never put yourself above the game, right? Like if, for example, man on second, nobody out, we got to do our job, play the game, get them over to third. So Pete Wilk really stressed situational hitting. And then we talked about Zach Landry's bunt. We just got to set things up to help our team succeed. And then another thing he just talked about a lot is just staying relaxed and, having fun, playing stress-free baseball, and just remembering that this is a game that we all started when we were younger and a game that we've come to know and love. And Pete Wilk definitely helped us with that. Just kept us relaxed and loose, having fun.
Yeah, he told us he made sure you guys were having fun because it's such a long summer, and if you're not having fun, then you're kind of wasting the summer, even though you're playing good baseball. He seemed to make sure you guys enjoy it very well. So it is a quick turnaround though after that long summer. Are you ready for school and fall ball?
Yeah, I am. It's nice to be home for a little bit. I haven't really been fully home since like February, but it's nice to be home, see the family, see all my pets, but I will be going to Tufts in a couple days, so I'm ready for it. I'm ready for fall ball. Ready to get things rolling.
Yeah, you'll see guys like Di Maria and some other features guys that tore it up this year. So it says in your Tufts bio you like to try famous pizza. You're going to be in Medford soon. Owen and I are going to be living in the city. Should we get some FCBL championship content and do a little pizza stuff?
I would love that. We got to set that up.
All right, we'll set that up this fall then.
We also got to ask real quick about your walk-up song. Talk about that. Give the fans a little preview insight if they don't know what it is.
Well, my walk-up song was by Frank Sinatra, "Fly Me to the Moon." I don't know. I'm just a classy guy. I love Frank Sinatra music, and the crowd really seemed to love it, and it became like a whole thing in Burlington. Every time I stepped up to the plate, got a lot of love from that.
You could hear the faint like Jupiter and Mars in the stands as the fans would sing it. They would tune it out. It worked out like Shane Victorino almost.
Yeah, I mean, even like Burlington's awesome. Like we'll get noticed out in downtown. They'll be like, "Oh, you Jimmy Evans? Like, can you take a picture of me?" Like, or just like anyone on the team. And I became like the Sinatra boy. That's what they called me. They're like, "You're the Sinatra kid from Fly Me to the Moon." So that's pretty funny.
That is very funny. And it transitions well into our next question and our last question here. What were your first impressions of the league and Vermont overall? And what were your final thoughts on the summer in Burlington?
This league is unbelievable. I mean, obviously great competition. You're meeting guys from all over the country. So it's great just to play with players that I've obviously never met before. In terms of Vermont Lake Monsters, I couldn't be happier. Obviously we had an unbelievable season, but the organization itself is very well run. Chris English, our owner, does an amazing job in making sure that we're at our best for every single game, whether that's with food or buying an extra hitting machine for us, or helping us out with getting extra bats. Like he's always doing the best he can to make sure we're performing at our best. And then with Burlington, the fans are unbelievable. I mean, you guys saw that last game. We get a couple thousand fans almost at every game. Even like on a Tuesday night, we'll get a couple thousand, which is unbelievable because I feel like you don't get that anywhere else in the Futures League. So Burlington, props to you guys because you're definitely part of our success.
Yeah, the crowd was amazing for both games of that championship series and all throughout the playoffs. Jimmy Evans, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great interview, and congratulations once again on the championship and your championship MVP trophy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, congrats, Jimmy. Good luck this year.
Thank you. Hey, we better get pizza.
Definitely. We'll text you.
Yeah, well, I'm from Connecticut, so I don't know if you know New Haven, the pizza capital of the world. That's what Dave Portnoy likes to call it, at least.
That's what I've heard.
But I'm definitely down to try anything. You guys give me a place, I'll go with you guys. Be fun.
All right, sweet.
Thanks once again to Jimmy Evans for joining us. Obviously, it's great to see him win a championship that was so high on offense for those first two games.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it was awesome, and I'm sure they wish game one went differently, but who cares now if you're them, right? And I'm sure, when game two was rolling out and it was the fifth, they were like, hey, we need a score for Pat Harrington, and we need a score for Billy Oldham when he comes out of the pen. We're talking to Billy next, and Billy, what a season for him, too.
Yeah, Billy Oldham, one of the original Vermont Lake Monsters, as Wilk talked about in his interview, one of the guys that's been here from the beginning. His first start was on June 6th. And here he is pitching in game 3 of the championship out of the bullpen, locking it down. And, him and Harrington have just been incredible all season. He talks about that and so much more. And we want to get you there. So here's our interview with Billy Oldham.
Another Eastern kid. Here we go.
Another Eastern Connecticut kid. Let's roll. We are honored to be joined by our next guest here on our championship special. It's Billy Oldham, pitcher for the Vermont Lake Monsters. Billy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we got to ask it right off the bat. You guys did it. You grinded all season, 68 games, and you won the 2021 championship. How did that feel?
It felt great to do it with those guys. We talked about had a lot of turnover throughout the year, but every guy that came in that locker room wanted to win just as much as the next guy. And, that really showed us allowed to win so many games in July and then continue that into August and bring that right to the playoffs. So it was great.
You brought that right to the playoffs, right through the playoffs. We'll get to that semifinal matchup in a second, but first we got to start with Game 3 was pushed from Thursday to Friday due to rain. What was the mentality like? When did you guys find out? How did you guys find that out?
We didn't even know if we were going to end up playing Game 2. There was a supposedly going to be a storm in Pittsfield, and we were all worried about that. So we were checking the weather on the way down or on the bus. We're like, okay, it's not going to rain until 11. We'll get the game in. And then we checked Burlington as we're home. We're like, oh, tomorrow's not looking great. And then right after the game, coach was like, yeah, it's going to be pushed. Does anyone have flights they need to move? And we were all like, oh no, like is half the team going to be gone by Friday? So he was like, let me know immediately who's leaving. If we can get you to stay, that'd be great. And so once we found that out, I got a little nervous. I didn't know who was going to stay and who was leaving. And then one by one on Thursday, everyone was texting our group chat, got my flight moved. I'm ready to go. And so that was awesome to see. And it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is awesome knowing again that everybody was in. And we talked about with Coach Wilk, how, you guys were a team and you definitely all wanted and had the same goal. So did you know that you were pitching in Game 3 regardless? Because if it started Thursday, you would have been the eligible pitcher, and Friday, obviously, you had the amount of rest days anyway.
Yeah. So for Thursday, we had a little team dinner during Brockton and Pittsfield's Game 3. And I went up to coach and was like, hey, if this goes to a Game 3, I'm able to pitch. And Fincher said, he goes, you had a good season, man. And I was like, I want to throw if it goes to a Game 3. And he's like, we'll see. I mean, he's like, you had a good year. We could call it at that. We don't want to push anything. And I was like, I want to throw if I can. And he's like, I'll talk to Pete, but I'm not sure. And so I'm not sure if the plan was to let me throw on Thursday. So it was great that it got moved. I was able to get pretty much full rest, and then ready to go.
And that Game 3, Pat Harrington gets the call as a starter and you come out of the bullpen. You both were shoving. What were you told to be ready for pregame? Did you know that you were coming out of the bullpen? Did you expect to come out of the bullpen?
Yeah, we talked about it. Me and Pat went to the field on Thursday as it was raining and we were tossing, and we saw Coach there, and he told us like, hey, it's going to be, he didn't know yet who was going to start. He said, it's going to be one of you start and the other's going right in next. And he's like, we want to try to get at least 3 or 4 out of Pat. And then he said 2 or 3 out of me, and then we can get into the bullpen. And so right as we were about to leave, he's like, he made me text my coach and make sure at school if my coach was okay with me throwing one more time. And my coach said, yeah, go ahead, go win that championship. And so he said, okay, Pat, you're starting. Bill, you're first out of the pen. Be ready for 4th inning. And then Pat was just rolling. So I was in the dugout till like the 4th inning, just hanging out. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'll head down and start warming up. And then Pat he was just on fire. And so like I didn't really need to do much. He set us up perfectly.
You were in the dugout?
I was in the dugout for the first, because that's what I always stay in the dugout. And I'm like, I can't change anything for the championship game. So I'm like, I got to stay in the dugout till it's time, and then I'm going to go down.
So Coach Wilk was getting upset at the walkie-talkies in like the 9th inning, but when you went down to the pen, were you on the walkie-talkies? Were you like, how long are they going to let Pat go? When are they going to go in? Because, as a starter, you like to time things up, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was definitely a little strange because, I mean, I think Pat could have even kept going. So I'm like out there like, are they going to take him out? And then, so I just decided in the bottom of the 4th while we were hitting, I started getting my legs moving, my like bands and stuff. And then finally, when he went out for the 5th, I started tossing. Then they said after he finished the 5th, they were like, okay, Bill, you're in for the 6th. And then I had like a full inning. So it was enough time.
So how do you usually like long toss before a start to do anything you couldn't have done in a championship? Because obviously it's a championship and you'll do anything differently.
Yeah.
But
I usually don't go too far in long toss, but I threw before the game, like 10 minutes before the game in the outfield. So I got at least a little bit of, got to like 120, and that was enough to get me loose. And then was just waiting around basically till it was my turn. But yeah, I was nothing too crazy. I was ready to go.
So going back even further, the way the Lake Monster rotation was set up for the playoffs, you got the ball in game one of the semifinals against Worcester after, your regular season streaks and the second half success, which was just unbelievable. What was the expectation heading into that series?
Heading into Worcester, we knew they were a good team, and the whole year they had been in the top three, I think, and just at the end they slipped to fourth and they were battling with Westfield. So at first we didn't know if we were even going to play them or Westfield, but once we knew it was them, we knew that a game two was going to be a great game at their stadium. So we wanted to make sure we took game one and in case it went to three. So when I was ready to go for game one, and hopefully, like we said, hopefully it got extended and I could pitch twice, but I was in the mindset of maybe this was my last time pitching. So I went out there just to do my best. And I mean, we put up so many runs that I barely was nervous at all. Just once it was the second inning, we're up 8-0. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, you were good. You said you told me after the game that you had to get that toss in the second inning when they were doing a pitching change. So that was funny. And yeah, there's that comfort level when it gets to 8, it's probably past the comfort level.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Eastern obviously had some big games this spring. Eastern Connecticut, that is, for those who don't know, that's where Billy goes. Whether it was UMass, Dartmouth, Southern Maine, or Cortland late in the year that you pitched in, how did this summer maybe prepare you for future matchups? How did like those prepare you for those big playoff matchups you just played in for the Lake Monsters?
Yeah, definitely. This spring, we played in a lot of important games, and the most important game I ever pitched in my life, I got to start game 3 of our conference championship, kind of like we had game 3 of the Futures League. So I didn't start the Futures game, but I started our college game this year. And that was one of the most, I wasn't even that nervous, but that was one of the most important starts of my life. And so going from that to the summer in the similar spot, I was like, okay, I've been here before. I'm not as nervous. If coach says I'm starting, I'd be happy. He said I was first out of the pen. I didn't have a problem with that either. So yeah, it definitely helps that just being ready for those moments. And now even for next year, if the pitching lines up in a different way and I do got to come out of the pen for like a later game in the season, I'll be ready for that too, because now I've got an experience for that. And it was definitely helps to get not just starts, but bullpen experience and big games in general.
Yeah, and at Eastern, there's a numerous amount of players who have played in the Futures League this year, including Luke Broadhurst, who you didn't get to face, but did you face any other Eastern Connecticut guys this year?
Yeah, I got to face Ryan Bagdasarian, a really good friend of mine on the Bees. And then on the Unicorns, they had 3 hitters and 1 pitcher from Eastern. I got to face 2 out of the 3 hitters. Our captain, he didn't end up playing for most of the year, John Masagno, but I got to face Matt Malcolm and Dean Slavin. And I was feeling really good that game, and it ended up getting rained out in the 3rd. So I only got to face them once, I think, each.
So you're going back to school and bragging about that, right?
Definitely. And with the championship shirt.
Oh yeah.
Flex that a little bit.
Yeah, it's got to be worn every time you get to the locker. Absolutely. You got to just keep it in the locker.
Yeah, hang it up. Yep.
So towards the summer overall, kind of, what were your goals you wanted to accomplish, both like on a personal level and ones you may have talked about with your coaches at school?
From a pitching perspective, my changeup was very hit or miss in the spring, and I really wanted to get that as like a go-to pitch for me. And throughout the summer and by the end, it was my best pitch. And that like a lot of reps and a lot of experience, because in the spring it was more games, like important games at the end when it was kind of coming along. So then early on in this summer, when I could just go out there and throw it, I got a lot of experience. And then also I wanted to work on like throwing inside the batters, not being afraid if I hit them, but getting in there and making sure, like, just surprising sometimes. If you get an inside fastball, you could sneak one in and it's a great pitch. So I got to work on a lot of that this summer, which helps, because then I'll be able to use that for the spring.
And you were also a finalist for our Pitcher of the Year award. The list it was quite the list, and you were right on there with all those guys. What did it mean to be on there?
Oh yeah, that was awesome. I mean, me and Pat, I think we found out on an off day, and me, Pat, and a few guys were hanging out. We got tagged in a post on Instagram, and we are like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Me and Pat, we're like, "Let's go." And then Pat's friend on Assumption was also on there, and we're like, "Wow!" And I think there was two other guys from Little East Conference on there. I'm like, "Wow, there's a lot of good pitchers on here that we all know." So it was definitely awesome to be a part of that list.
Yeah. So what did it mean? Obviously, it's great. You see your name next to a bunch of other, guys around New England that perform well in the spring and summer, and they're going to do even better next spring. What did it mean? You worked on the changeup. You tried to get inside. You tried to pound that inside fastball, like you said. What did it mean, after working on things and performing so well, just to be on that and get like some recognition?
Yeah, that felt great to really know that what I was working on was working, and then as a team we were able to just win a bunch of games. So that helps, gets you on the list. If your team's very good, you could be a great pitcher, but if your team's not very good, sometimes it's tough to get that recognition. So it was a great feeling knowing that the summer was going in the right direction, and we just needed to finish it off in the playoffs.
Yeah, and transitioning more to what's going on right now. Owen told me you had to drive to school yesterday. Are you moved in?
Well, I actually set it up and I came home. I'm gonna spend 2 more days here, then I'll be up there.
When does fall ball start for you guys?
Our fall starts, I think, September 12th. So I have like 2 or 3 weeks at school with no baseball, and then we start right up.
Have you pitched this late into August before? I know you said you had to get approval from your coach. It is pretty late. So how are you going to rest up before fall ball?
Yeah, I think I haven't thrown, and I'm definitely going to shut down for a little. And I'm going to talk to my coach and see what he wants me to do, because I've never really had arm issues, thank God. So I'd be okay to throw this fall, but I know a lot of guys shut down after a long summer and a long spring. So I might not pitch in this upcoming fall, but I feel like I could if I had to. So I'll see what my coach has me do.
And one more fall ball question. We already talked about the Eastern Warriors guys you faced in the summer, but what about last fall, or if you pitch this fall, you're ready to show them your stuff, like Luke and co?
Yeah, definitely. It's time to show Luke what I have, because he didn't get to face me. So hopefully I can throw a couple change ups to him, and he won't be like, "When did you learn this?" And everyone else will be like, "Oh, he learned that this summer," but he hasn't seen that yet.
Before we return to the season 3 finale of Back to the Futures, we want to share a message from our friends at On Demand Storage. Are you tired of living in clutter? Do you need more space around your home or office? Are you sick of visiting your self-storage unit? Does your business need a way to securely and conveniently store excess materials? On Demand Storage will pick up your items directly from your location and put them in storage for you. When you want something put back, give us a call and we can deliver it back right away. We bring convenience to the outdated self-storage process. Visit ondemandStorage.com and submit an inquiry. During sign-up, mention the Futures League and receive 50% off your storage pickup. Once again, that's ondemandStorage, all one word, .com. Now back to our championship special here on Back to the Futures. And this summer, you had an excellent pitching staff in Vermont, whether it was Pete Wilk as the head coach or Matt Fincher as the pitching coach. What did you learn from the both of them, and what did you take away from what they taught you?
From those guys, we learned about attacking hitters, and the difference between 0-0 and 1-0 is such a big difference. So you want to get ahead and just attack guys, and starting off with the ball just puts batters in a way more comfortable at bat, and it lets them know in a sense that at some point you're going to have to come back with a fastball. So we learned that at one point we were walking a lot of guys in Vermont, and we kind of turned that around by the mid to end of the year. So that was great to see us figure that problem out and improve and finish the year strong.
Yeah, Coach Wilk talked about the amount of free bases and his disappointment with that. So that's great that you guys turned that around. Obviously it worked out. So
yeah.
And last question here, final thoughts on your summer in Burlington, Vermont overall.
This summer was awesome. I mean, I didn't know what to expect because it was 4 hours away from my house, and I wasn't even going with a single teammate from Eastern, and I didn't really know anybody on the roster. So coming in, I was like interested, excited. My head coach at school told me that Centennial Field's legit, and he's good friends with Wilk, so he knows Wilk, and he knew that he'd be a great coach. And so I was excited going into the summer, but I didn't really know what to expect. So turns out it was easily the best summer ever. I mean, we won the whole thing. Burlington's a great city, and the fans were awesome. So yeah, I mean, I had the best time ever.
That's good to hear. And obviously the championship was well deserved, and it certainly helped to improve that summer for you. And Billy Oldham of the Vermont Lake Monsters, thank you so much once again for joining us here on our championship special, and good luck at Eastern this fall and up this spring.
Thank you.
Congrats, Billy. Thanks so much to Billy for that. Congratulations to the Lake Monsters again. They deserve all the congratulatories they get in this championship special. And thank you guys. I know I say it at the top of every show, but I do mean it. Every like, comment, share, retweet, post. That's what our job is. Our job's to promote the league and promote this podcast and promote these guys in the league, these owners, these managers. I hope we showed it all summer. I know Owen showed it for a couple years there with Matt Satilli. I hope I did a good job, but thank you so much for everything this year.
Yeah, as this is our season finale, I also want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, and listening, as Johnny says off the top of every show. From myself to Johnny to Matt before me, it's been an honor to do this podcast, and we will be picking it up in the winter, but for now it's time to go enjoy some pumpkin spice lattes and some football, and we'll put MLB playoffs as well. It's an exciting time of year. And well, again, we wanted to thank you all so much. Your order?
Pumpkin spice, football, MLB playoffs.
I just thought of the fall, and that's
okay.
That's what. Literally, no, that was generic fall. I don't drink coffee, so.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank Joe Palucci again for the opportunity this summer. I know you got to do that whenever this podcast started. Thanks to Joe so much. It was great working for him. It was great getting to know him better. I faced him and yelled at his whole team at Hingham High on the mound when we played Weymouth High School, and it was great getting to know him better. And Josh Cummins as well, and Ben and Colby and Owen. Guys, Owen got me this job. He got me this internship. I've known him forever. We were on the same high school team, graduated the same time, listened to the same Morgan Wallen and Riley Green music all summer long. And so thanks, Owen, for that. I mean, crazy opportunities this summer I might not ever get again. And I owe you a lot for that.
Hey, it was my honor. And thank you again for coming along for the ride with me. And thank you from myself too, to Joe, and shout out to Josh and Colby and Ben for a great job this summer. And that's going to conclude our season 3 finale of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League. We will pick this podcast back up at some point, but for now, tune into our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks to everyone for tuning in all season long. We'll see everyone soon.